And we are recording on Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, 5:34, but who gives a shit? I don't know why I always say the date and time like people don't know. I don't know why I do that, and I just kind of had a moment of self-awareness of it's a waste of breath. So after I just threatened David with activating a camera that I've had illegally inserted into his bedroom and implied that I work for the NSA and made a joke about rape. I figured that's as good as a start as any to these podcasts. So with that, David, my friend, introduce yourself to all the new listeners, and then we'll go down whatever unholy rabbit hole you and I tend to go down.
Yeah, we're gonna fall down some rabbit holes for sure. It's all I really know how to do. But this David Gosselin here. I'm the editor in chief of the Chained Muse, which is a journal of classical arts and letters. Long story short, there's a lot of ugliness out there, right? But what does what is the opposite, right? Is it just the absence of ugliness, right? We're constantly bombarded with all sorts of weird things, but then what what does the good, the beautiful, and the true actually look like today? There's this idea we just need to maybe go back, but if we're talking about eternal principles and truths, the question they can always be renewed, they can always be rediscovered, like with anything in life, right? Whatever our routine or our maxims, if we just become automatic with them, we
Mhm.
lose that deeper spark. Now that
Mhm.
was a long uh, explanation to say. So classical arts and letters, rediscovering timeless truth and beauty in a modern context. So that's my journal, and the Substack Age of Muses is where I fall into the rabbit holes and the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about today.
And those links are in the description. And David has a special place in my heart, either because he's an intel operative who's done his homework and knows how to get into my heart, or because he's as deranged as I am. But in that he is a fellow student of the warrior poet philosopher king Timothy J. Dillon. We are both mere acolytes of his greatness. We bask in his Irish pig light, and so if you don't understand what we're talking about, that's not our problem. You need to get up to speed, go down the rabbit hole of the satanic pedophile cults, and then you can come back and watch this. Um, but with that, yeah. So your art and the links to that stuff's in the description. But your article does kind of go into the idea of right of soma, which is just in my mind has always just been the artificial simulation, or not simulation, it's a drug, but the stimulation of, I don't know, the sensation of sex, drunkenness, and a Big Mac and like a midday nap. That's how I've always envisioned soma, right?
Mm. Just bunched in together, the
just
perfect.
just yeah, a Big Mac soaked in whiskey, coated in Viagra and Xanax, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah,
I don't know how well that would
takes the edge
taste.
off.
It takes the edge. The feeling is what I'm after, not that necessarily that smoothie of hell that would taste like. Um, and then you go. There's one thing I want to get into, and it's I think it was, I don't know if you meant for it to be more than a passing sentence or if it is indeed a launching point into a whole other conversation. But it's the idea of, right, with any new religion comes like the new drugs, the mass produced drugs, the specifically the lysergic acid, and with Huxley and with Leary, it's the idea that this will generate a whole new society, which is true. I mean, right? You give the Nazis gave everybody, including civilians, Pervitin, which was tablet form, like Mentos of crystal meth, and that had a higher order effect. And so, if we
Mhm.
start releasing, you can see it when weed becomes legal in a city over a decade. You can see it kind of like almost like a new residence.
Yeah.
Um, you wonder then, but I liked what you said in there, knowing that Leary and a lot of these people were actually working for the CIA, what does spreading the message really mean? And I love that idea of this apparent breaking away from the greatest generation, Uncle Sam, nuclear family, flourishing into Jimi Hendrix and Woodstock and free love. And it's a total breakaway from the old rigid structures of the men in the suits. But actually, this entire thing was the men in the suits.
Hmm.
Go into
Why?
that.
Yeah. Why don't we start with a quote from the article, which hasn't dropped yet, and it will be dropping soon. So if you are subscribed to the
Well,
Substack, you'll
I
end
read
up.
it because I'm an insider. You know, whatever. It's what
Yeah.
it
But
is. You know, I'm
I'll
not trying to flex on you guys, but you know, whatever. I get early access.
the so this first quote is from Flashback, which is one of Timothy Leary's autobiographies or autobiographical accounts of that uh, magical age of the 1960s, Woodstock, Jimi Hendrix, all that. So Huxley writes to Timothy, these brains drugs, mass produced in the laboratories, will bring about vast changes in society. This will happen with or without you or me. All we can do is spread the word. The obstacle to this evolution, Timothy, is the Bible. Now Timothy reflects on that thought, saying, we had run up against the Judeo-Christian commitment to one God, one religion, one reality that has cursed Europe for centuries and America since our founding days. Drugs that open the mind to multiple realities inevitably lead to a polytheistic view of the universe. We sense that the time for a new humanist religion based on intelligence, good-natured pluralism, and scientific paganism had arrived.
Mm.
There is a lot there.
Yeah.
And you said that about spreading the word, right?
Mm.
So all that, like we hear this, and I guess to keep in the back of our minds, I mean, what's the big thing these days on whether it's like Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson, or there's this whole new era of psychedelic evangelists,
Okay.
where like psychedelics are like everybody's, there's a lot of mental health issues today.
Uh-huh.
So just like any other fad, or diet, or this is how you're going to lose weight, and
Yeah.
it involves exercise or, any of these things. Now it's like, this is how you can heal, right? This is psychedelics, right? It's going to break down old connections and
Mm-hmm.
allow you to make new connections and pretty much repattern yourself.
Mm. Do you think that have we finally arrived at the thing that works, or is this just yet another iteration of this is it? This is gonna make, in the 50s, they're probably like, we've come through 10,000 years of evolution and we're finally here. Better living through chemistry. Just give your wife a Xanax. And it's like, well, we now know that those are horribly addictive. And it's like crystal meth. I mean, methamphetamine can perk you right up. And it's like, well, is this just, and I've done psychedelics a handful, only 5 times in my life. And they have been, I mean, truly miraculous. And they are, I have to be honest and say, they have been healing on a deep level. But I'm also hesitant of anything that's like, this pill is going to make you lose 45 pounds tonight. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard this before, and it wouldn't be the first time, right? If this, uh, but again, we're talking about beyond therapeutic purposes, right? Like
Okay.
we're talking about what
Reformation.
Timothy and Huxley are talking about is really how do you repattern a society, right? The point about the psychedelics, right? Yeah, like you can get distance from old memories, right? And it's sort of old bonds come apart, and so new bonds are made, right? And there's a chemistry to that. um but it's like, or just like therapy, right? A lot of what we know as modern propaganda comes from the study of shell shock, comes from the study of group therapy, family therapy. R.D. Laing, famous psychiatrist, wrote The Politics of the Family, right? The family is the basic unit in society where all the dynamics are shaped that goes into creating individuals. And so if you're if you're a bad guy and you see that, and you see that people, this is how they are patterned in the first place, right? Or their first system of affectations, right? How they positive and negative feelings towards XYZ image, XYZ relationship, right? All these things are learned first in childhood. So, and childhood is like a trance state, right? Like children absorb, right? We're modeling our environment, right, and our relations, and that shapes our reality, right? The family, everything outside of the family is pretty much alien. It's the outside world. So if you're a good guy, right, you can see like families that are dysfunctional, people have all sorts of dysfunctions, and you got to understand that, right? If you're going to find ways to create new adaptive behaviors and thoughts and all that. But if you're a social engineer and you're studying, well, how do we shape the group dynamics in a society, right? And or in a political party, let's say, what is a political party if not an extended family or tribe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're all so we're so quick to rail against the other side, right? And all the problems with the other side, but how quick are people to sort of discount or overlook the problems with their own side, right? This
Very,
isn't
very familial. He's fucked up, but he's my brother.
exactly. And so again, same with the psychedelics and stuff. Like the question is, what is the person's intention, right?
Okay.
Like, sure, we can talk about a lot of people have accounts of the therapeutic effects of having taken different substances. We can just keep it general. But then again, like the question is, are we also going to talk about the fact that MK Ultra and the CIA were also very enthusiastic about the use of psychedelics
Yeah.
because it allowed for a repatterning. So the
Yeah.
question is, where are we going with this stuff? And we have to be mindful of what is our current system. Like, is our system really trying to make everybody better? Is it really trying to promote healthy family dynamics or whatnot? Or is it trying to promote a Malthusian death cult where people are happy with less? And
Yeah.
they're happy no matter what, technically. The serfs like their servitude.
You own nothing, and you'll be
And you're
happy.
happy. Yeah, man, the materialism is bad.
If that ain't Soma, I mean, yeah. So that is an interesting point. So yeah, it's not just therapy we're talking about. We're talking about a wholesale repatterning of life. So it's like I played Spider-Man on my PC in like January. It's all right game. It's whatever. But Doc Ock is he's the researcher that Peter Parker works for, and they're trying to develop a synthetic arm for like soldiers that came home from Iraq.
Right.
Gets into it, and it's like, well, why should we just do like 5 fingers? It's like we're already using a synthetic arm that's like bulletproof and fireproof. Like, why not give it 6 fingers? And then they're like, well, why not add several more joints? And then he's like, well, why not? Why make a hand at all? Why not make almost like this weird like claw? And then it's like, well, why only have one? And there is like a philosophical thing to it where he's saying he starts repairing the thing that was destroyed, a soldier coming home from Iraq who lost an arm. And
Right.
you can see this evolution throughout the campaign where it's, well, if we're remaking it anyway, why the hand is good for a chaotic, unsentient evolutionary system that was just the history of biological life. That's all well and good. But if we're remaking it, why do we have to do 5 fingers? Why not 10? And why can't they be quintuple jointed? And why can't there be a spear in the middle or a laser? And
Right.
it's, if we're starting from scratch, let's let's cast off the chains and start anew. And it's like psychedelics, yeah, you can get rid of trauma, or we could get rid of everything. Fuck trauma. That's small. We're thinking small. Why not completely recreate society as we know it?
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, it's interesting. It helps to put ourselves in those shoes, right? Like Dr. Octopus, Aldous Huxley,
Yeah.
like that's actually a healthy thing to do in the sense that if we can't, people talk about empathy, and yeah, I mean, empathy is important, but empathy means being able to put yourself in another's shoes. So, what of the, regular folks who, decent folks, and their hearts and minds are, they're not in the wrong places, but they may have trouble imagining certain things that are sort of out there, their minds haven't wandered certain places, right? And so it's interesting. You meet certain people where they're well adjusted, right? They're happy and ebullient, and they have talents. They're not stupid,
What does
and
a
they're
Boolean
like
mean?
just like happy, sort of. Hey,
Okay,
how's it? Yeah, totally, man.
gotcha. All right,
Uh,
gotcha.
and so like that's great, and God bless them, and it's refreshing almost when you talk to somebody who's actually well adjusted. But at the same time, it's like, does that person really have insight into some of the deeper problems in the world? Because the world is not just all these nice things.
Yeah,
And so the reality is you find out no, right? And if you start to talk about certain things, then you look weird, right? You look like
yeah,
there's something strange about you. And so it's this. They haven't had to go certain places. They haven't had to come fully online in a certain sense, because their things have gone relatively well. And it's like if you're 20 years old, right? I think I was telling my friend I was at the gym and I was listening to. I just hear whatever people are talking about. But this guy was just saying, he was just a young guy, and you just see starry eyed. He was talking to his girlfriend, like he's gonna go see his girlfriend later. He's with the boys at the gym and da da da. Starry eyed, like you know, bless his heart. He's golden. And you know what? You're 20, you're 23. Shouldn't you be happy? You shouldn't be sad at 23,
no,
right? You shouldn't be stuck in your head. You shouldn't be depressed or any of these things. But the reality is there are also these deeper things going on in the world, and our world is not just uh, yeah, we can't be starry eyed all the time, right? If we truly believe in the good and a higher truth that our world should conform with, right? A universal harmony that mankind can ever less imperfectly mirror, right? And we conform to that by discovering more and more about the universe, more and more about ourselves. Then you have to look at you have to, hence awareness. Like we have to see the whole thing. We
mm,
have to let the whole thing hit us any without making assumptions, right? That would limit our ability to see the bigger picture. So that we don't have enough of that. I forget what you said that made me go on to this whole rant, actually.
uh, uh,
But
no, that means it's a good podcast. Is when you can't see where the starting line is. That means it's good. So embrace that. Um, reforming Doc Ock, reforming everything, rebuilding from the
right,
beginning.
yeah, exactly. So you're going. It's healthy for us to put ourselves in the shoes of other people, and I mean at the highest level, this is Shakespeare, right? They say Shakespeare was an everyman, right? He portrayed so many different characters on the stage. He had such a deep insight into human nature, right? He understood all these characters that in real life, there's probably all these people that he understood them better than they understood themselves. And so he was able to depict all these universal truths, yet totally dramatized and through unique characters. That's a good skill, right? If we want to understand the world today, to not be so stuck in our own axioms or our own frameworks that we can't imagine something quite different, regardless of whether it's true for a minute. And so, yeah, when we get into the deeper, darker stuff with the bad guys, the social engineering of Western society, which has clearly been going on, we shouldn't be afraid to go down the road so that we can get a better insight into how to fix these problems. Right, never forgetting the higher good that stays with us as we descend into the inferno, like Dante. He always had a higher voice,
Yeah.
right? Beatrice was his guide, that was there calling him. Thank God, or maybe he wouldn't have made it out, but he had to go there.
There is when we're discussing the intent of the people behind pushing the wholesale erasure and reformation is I mean, on one hand, you can say everything is a double-edged sword, right? You can take the knife and put butter on a biscuit, or you can kill your grandma. It's okay. You can use a plane to decrease the cost of goods by shipping them all over the world and visiting family, or you can fly it into the World Trade Center. You can nuclear power. You can power a whole, a whole city, or you could vaporize the city. And there's always the value of each thing gets greater and greater and greater. Like nuclear power is like, here's this little thing. We can power a whole city, hospitals, everything. You're like, fuck yeah. Or we can vaporize it. And you're like, oh, Jesus. Like, not a normal bomb. I mean, vaporize. I mean, burn the shadows into the concrete. And it's like, Christ almighty. An ICBM, a rocket. So if we can put man in space and see the heavens, or we can nuke each other from orbit. But I don't think we're ever going to slow down progress, because by slowing down progress, all you're doing is giving someone else a green light to go ahead. So when it comes to the intent of psychedelics, I mean, is it the CIA? Yeah, I mean, that is evil intent, and it's to make Manchurian candidates. But we're not gonna I firmly believe that we can't put a cap on progress. If we could, this would be a whole nother discussion, but I don't think we can. So in that paradigm of we can't stop progress, it's probably important to talk about it, but ultimately it's going forward. Whether or not we're on board, right? Like Huxley, with or without us.
Yeah, and hence the problem though for the Huxleyan type, right? Because for the oligarchical outlook, because it's like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. And at the end of the day, what is the current what is the whole driver for things like the Great Reset, for the whole post-industrial, utopian
Total
greening
dominion.
Western greening of Western civilization, is the idea of putting back the genie in the bottle. The
Yeah.
genie being industrial civilization and
Internet, economies of scale.
scientific progress, pretty much, in ways, because these things naturally they create singularities, right? You're not able to
Yeah.
control when you have this a society where you have individuals that have this image of themselves where man can discover the
And touch
actual
the stars. Like,
they can actually, yeah, the physical principles that govern the universe can actually be discovered, which means that the principles that govern the mind and the principles that govern the universe are coherent. And hence the Judeo-Christian idea that man is in the image of a creator, in the sense that he's a living image. He mirrors that creative uh, capacity, right? In a finite, contracted form, since each man is mortal, but as a species, right? There's a continuity, and we're able to uh, uh, ever, just ever unfold and unpack the mysteries of the universe, which are never going away, right? If anything, they're only becoming clearer. But we're learning more of the details, right, of how the universe, the fine structures of the universe, and this gives mankind more power over nature naturally. And this is the real genie in the bottle, genie that they're trying to put back in the bottle, and that's why I wrote this Huxley article, which is called "Escaping Huxley's Island: Psychedelic Scientific Paganism and the Changing Images of Man," which is looking really at what the social engineers, in their words, like the mothership, Stanford Research Institute, the UCLA folks, and Huxley, which was associated and really part of the higher level brain trusts, thinking about these things. So Huxley wrote his final book, The Island, which is not the Brave New World. We always hear Brave New World, but that wasn't his most mature vision of how to remake society and how a permanent revolution could be brought about. The Island was, and that one's less talked about. But the more, if we're paying attention to the cues and the narratives that are being presented now, which is that, the age of abundance, industrial civilization, that's over. Now we need to go to something sustainable. Great Reset, circular economy is their catchword. So it's circular, right? It's static pretty much. So basically, things are going to stop changing, or the change is going to be so controlled, and
Isn't that
it's
hell?
going to.
What
Pardon
is
me.
the innermost circle of hell? Is ice. It's frozen.
It That's not a bad observation. So how do you do that? How do you sell that to people though? Right? Because the thing about the Brave New World is that
It's
it's
very
still
demonic. You have to mirror something red instead of going, it's frozen. You got to go, it's green and there's butterflies and there's whales and wind and we're all whatever.
yeah, you gotta frame it in a way that it can be sold. And so green grass, green trees, fresh air. Don't you miss those things, city boys and girls? Don't you remember those simpler times, right? In all this complexity. But then there's a sleight of hand, because it's like, well, what's the actual problem today? Is it like the cities themselves? Is it,
Yeah.
that cars run on gas, or that we have 6 billion people? Like, what is really the issue? And of course, the narratives, they leave out certain things, right? The best lies have just enough truth, right? That they're convincing, and but more to the point, they can get into the hearts and minds of people.
Mm-hmm.
So this Huxleyan island is not an industrialized society. It's more like a global village style, open family systems, communitarian, tribal, and there's a lot of different parts, but they work together. But they're all seemingly, or they're kind of organic, at least on the surface. Um, and so, yeah, it's not an industrialized society, so you don't have all the bread and circus. That's the point. Like in the Huxleyan Brave New World, the soma industry, it's endless distractions and imitations, things that, you said it before, the feeling is what I'm after, right? So if we're talking about, imitation versus the real thing, is are we really getting at the real thing, beauty, truth, and goodness? Or are we getting at something that feels good, like that feels like we're doing the right thing, or that feels like it's love, that feels like it's justice, as we chop their heads off, or get kicked in the face and think that's how we say I love you, in some different
Yeah.
land. But now, so there's always that, is it the real thing? The feeling is what I'm after, is what you said. And so in Huxley's Island, where we're stripped of all the bread and circus, what do you have? You have a new drug. It's not moksha. Sorry, it's not soma. It's called moksha, the moksha medicine. And so the moksha medicine meets people's spiritual needs, because you don't really need anything else, right? If you're kind of in contact with your deeper transcendent self, right, and the universe, and you finally realize that most of these other things, these material things, they don't matter, right? What really matters is that deeper connection and whatnot. And so we have the moksha medicine man, and he shows us the way, and da da da. And we have a whole, we have rituals, we have nice bongo evenings where we play music, and it's a very nice time. And so think of the whole environmental counterculture today, right? The ecological stuff. What is it really, if not this kind of pagan, kind of hippie, bongo style stuff, right? Like, it doesn't really, the image of man is very different, right? And if we look at the island, that's really, I think, where we start to get an insight into where the social engineers are trying to bring society right now, which forces the question, what is the real thing? Like, yes, there are problems with our modern way of life that should be fixed. How do we transcend this the haunted modern man, right? The haunted
Mm.
modern world, but actually get to something actually sustainable and real, as opposed to something that's just sold as sustainable and real, but it's really like a pagan death cult, Malthusian, you know, it's basically a population control disguised as a green religion of sustainability. How do we make these distinctions?
Well, they've wrapped it up very well, right? They've packaged it very well. I mean, right? You know, do you like candy? Do you like puppies? Well, I sure do. All right, you know, you're kind of a creepy balding guy in a van with no windows, but I mean, I suppose if you've got candy and puppies, I'll come in there, right? And that doesn't mean that everything packaged well is bad, because there are just some genuinely beautiful, good, loving things, right? But if it has to be packaged so meticulously, that's where I get a little hesitant, right?
Mm,
I mean, a good song, the artist isn't like shoving it down your throat. You just find it and you're like, oh, this is fucking sick. And then you go,
mm,
then you go, I'm like, when I first discovered Post Malone, I was like, what the fuck is this? And then like, that was like 5 years ago. And I love all of his shit now. No one ever put a gun in my head. No one ever said,
right.
listen to this. And, and the whole idea of like that, the island, the natural thing, that's all horseshit in my opinion. Because like you look at things and like it feels great, right? You love going and like camping with some friends for like a day or two, right? Get out there, you're in the
Right.
mountains, then
A
you're like,
day or
this
two.
is
A
yeah,
day
you're
or
like exactly, no, very importantly, you know, a day, and you're like, this is so great, you know, getting away from the city and the sidewalk. Oh, look at the brook and the mountains and the sunset. Oh, is that a moose? And this is the life. This is how we're supposed to live. We're starting a fire. Those are all great. But you get to day two and day three, and you're like, man, I'd really love to go take a shit in like an air conditioned bathroom
I need a
without
shower.
without mosquito. Yeah, my I can smell my balls. I'm kind of tired of eating out of cans. I'm kind of sick of y'all. The first night sleeping on the ground was very refreshing and psychedelic. The second night was a little better. The third night, I kind of miss my Tempur-Pedic, right?
Right.
And that's fine, but that's not reality. And it's fun to the luxury of society and modern civilization is we can go dip our toes into it. We can go, oh, this is fun. I we can go play nature man for a couple of days, and we all are putting on an act of we're sitting under the stars and we're ripping bongs, and it's beautiful and it's great. But you get to day three, day four, day five, you have a headache. You know, you want to floss, you want deodorant, all your clothes are dirty. That's fine because you can come back to an air conditioned room with drywall and copper wires, right?
Yeah.
I don't think the people who are falling for this are truly thinking it through. Like what comes after a week, a month, a year. Don't be surprised when it mimics human civilization when that's all we had, which is Barbary.
Right.
It's the rule of force.
Yeah, I mean I mean that was a fun kind of sobering way to put it, the camping example. And it helps to take people through it, right? Like
Yeah.
we're not here to cast aspersions, but like
No, it's fun
we've
for a
all
couple
gone
days.
camping here. Like it's nice for a few days. So, but obviously the point about this is I think when we get to when we're talking about like more sophisticated forms of evil, right? The idea is always that you take legitimate grievances, right? You take legitimate injustices
Sure.
and you exploit those. You blow them up. You look in the images so that everything else sort of fades into the background, and that's the only thing that really people can see. So that now we look at all the world's problems, and I mean, well, not we, but you know, we hear the official narrative, and it's all about how, you know, it's all about sustainability, and you know, as we have, you know, been in a gone towards a post-industrial society in the West for decades now, when all the infrastructure is starting to come apart, you know, you don't have maintenance for whether it's forests or water or different things, and then you start to get narratives. Well, it's like, well, really, it's actually because there's too many people, And that's something that people viscerally feel, right? Like it's not a controversial point to say that the world's overpopulated.
Sure.
So like that's the seed crystal. Okay, so there's too many people, right? There's a superfluous amount of people, right? And you fast forward to the World Economic Forum, and what's the term they use? They use a slightly more sober term, global useless class, right? We're entering an age where there's a global
I haven't
useless
heard that.
class. Yeah, that's what Yuval Hariri talks about.
That's
That's
fucking.
that's what he's always no, that's their big thing. So the question is,
You can almost see that. Sorry to interrupt. You can almost see that term in English subtitles on like a grainy photo of Hitler screaming.
yeah, no, it's crazy, and it's really just framing, right? Like you talked about packaging,
Global
like
useless
so
class.
if you just package this stuff the right way by emphasizing nature and like green grass, green trees, and like clean air, when somebody who's breathing in soot or whatnot and doesn't like their 9 to 5 job, obviously there's a selling point there. But the point is, our society is sick, right? So but why is it sick is a different question. But the point is that the sicknesses are being exploited, the pessimism, right? That because we don't have a society that's really based on several generations looking into the future and like a vision, right? Where
Mm.
there is no vision, the people perish, right? That's straight out of the Proverbs. I mean, that's a big one. If there's no vision, like what is the purpose for mankind? What is the purpose of individual lives? If people lose a sense of that, then of course people become nasty, right?
Mm.
Because it's like, what are we living for? We may
What
as
am I
well just
doing?
you may as well just get our rocks off, get our kicks, and not really like what's worth sacrificing for.
If we're just
And
doing the same.
yeah, and so but then now we see the switch where it's like, well, we are going to sacrifice. We're going to sacrifice big. We're going to sacrifice Western civil capitalism and Western civilization. I don't like the word capitalism. It's I find it gets people it's people have too many associations, but
Yeah.
we're going to sacrifice industrial civilization, right? And we're all in this together, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all making a collective sacrifice for this greater good. And then you have these dark ideas, a global useless class, right? Overpopulation, and it's not talking about you know some of the deeper rooted problems that mankind. There's been a struggle, right, throughout mankind's history between sort of these competing views of mankind. Is man just a beast, cattle, and is it just like a like survival of the fittest, right? Might makes right, which goes back to the Republic. That's one of the main questions of the Republic with Thrasymachus, Plato, and Socrates is it just the law of the strongest? Or is there a higher principle and ordering that mankind has a capacity to discover and to embody? The oligarchical view is pretty much just that they're the alphas, and the masses just are the serfs,
Mm.
and you have a system in place that sort of is there to maintain power. But to maintain power, you have to do all sorts of things, right, that regular folks never really have to think about, like changing. How do we get everybody change their self-image so that they don't want to consume as much, because now the financial bubbles are popping, and we're not going to have an industrial economy anymore because we deindustrialized. How are we going to keep people content? How are we going to get people to you know be content? Yeah, how to give them that feeling, as you said, right? If they're always going to be after that feeling of fulfillment. And so how do we get people to feel fulfilled if we can't get them to feel it, to think they have it through the material stuff, which the bread and circus, which we used to be able to provide? What are we going to do?
That was
This
the
is the
modus
problem.
operandi for decades, right? Cheap shit, McDonald's, Walmart, Mad
two
TV.
dollar burgers or
Yeah,
whatever. Not anymore, but once upon a time,
yeah,
those days.
yeah. And now they want to reverse that. And the idea of the staticness, I really do believe, and I always used to hate it because I remember I think it was my mom or my grandma said that idle hands do the devil's work, and just
For
being
sure.
an arrogant teenager, you're like, well, that's not true, and I never really realized it being in college and being pre-med and just always striving towards this goal of getting into a medical school where 0.1% of applicants got in. And
Mm.
I always just used to think like I can't wait till I'm retired so I don't have to do any of this shit. And then when I got in and then decided I didn't want to go and then lost a brother to suicide, I spent about 2.5 years doing truly nothing. I mean,
Right.
truly nothing. Just my parents were supporting me. My girlfriend had a job. I did not, I mean, I would just wake up and do nothing. Those were the 2.5 most miserable years of my life.
Mm.
And to be fair, devil's advocate, it was also in the wake of my brother. So, it's not completely independent, but having nothing to work towards, very quickly, it was like, well, let's get high. Well, let's get higher. Let's get drunk.
Yeah.
Let's get drunker. And in hindsight, I can see I was still working towards things. It started with I got a bowl, and then I got a bong, and then I got a bong with multiple percolators, and then I got multiple percolators and like a carbon filter and ice and an ash catcher. And in hindsight, I'm like, I was still working towards a goal. I was just trying to make something even better. I had a bed because I used to sleep all the time because I was fat and lazy and on clonazepam. Well, then I got a water bed, and then I had a TV, and then I had a projector, and it was just you're still working towards something. And my logic, and admittedly simple and limited, and not probably I have no idea if it's correct or not, but for my own truth, I've found that I kind of exist on a seesaw. It's nearly impossible to sit at the center. I'm going one way or the other. And I can either work really hard to destroy myself, always be fucked up, never be sober, always be sleeping, always have pleasure, avoid all work, avoid the outdoors, just air conditioning, video games, delivery,
Mm.
or I can work towards this podcast. I can constantly be renewing it and reinvesting in it and taking what little money it makes and getting better cameras and better lighting and better audio and try to do more episodes with better guests and try to expand my horizons. And on the outside, that looks very painful. It's hard work, but the
Right.
reality is it's the most satisfying thing, and it makes me be a better person. So to not strive for a goal, really, to me, I have found, and it's the ego in me doesn't want to admit it, that mom and dad are right, but idle hands do the devil's work. And
Mm.
the idea that we're going to have this circular society where nothing progresses and it doesn't get bad, but it doesn't get better. To me, I'm like,
Right.
that's death. Like, put me against the wall now because that's death.
Mm.
And it's not growing and striving to be better, to advance, to I am most content after a hard day's work. I sit down in front of my TV, play some video games, and I'm like, I did 3 episodes today. I hit the gym. I meditated. I did laundry. I answered all my emails and texts, and I read a book. And now I sit down and I grab like my controller, and I'm like, I'm just gonna play some video games. But if
Mm.
I sit in front of that same TV and play the same video games on a day where I didn't do any work, it's not that fun. I'm like,
Mm.
this is kind of gay, right?
Yeah. It's an old, certain truths aren't going away.
Yeah.
And, and so at a certain point, though, I think, again, so if the bad guys understand that people need a cause, that's, again, the question is, are we striving after the real thing? Whatever that, it's different for different people. And I am going to be quoting our own prophet of our modern age, Tim Dillon, very shortly, because he brought up a very good point. But there's a desire to want to be useful, to want to have meaning,
Yeah.
right? But so then that's dangerous because at the same time, or it can be dangerous. And Tim Dillon, prophet of modern age, once said, nothing is more belief in anything, he said, is terrifying. And this was a joke he made at the Bitcoin conference, because he's talking about how it's a cult, right?
Yeah.
And like he believes that mass psychosis is it's believe in something no matter what.
Yeah.
As Bitcoin was like tanking, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's like in a huge like auditorium.
Yeah. He's the Winklevoss twins.
Yeah. But yeah, so the whole idea of belief and conviction is important, but all the more why people should, and this is the whole point of the Republic of Socrates, of the idea of loving wisdom, right? Being a philosopher, philosophia. Your love of wisdom should transcend our love of any given thing or desire for any given thing. And really, wisdom informs us that often whatever we're after, those are shadows of it's a shadow of something else. Not necessarily in a bad way, but like it can never be in a thing in of itself, right?
It's an echo.
Yeah, there's a deeper transcendent thing that we're after.
Yeah.
And you see that all the people that get thrown down, I don't, bad rabbit holes, we could say the whole world's about to be caught up in biblical floods and fires if we don't immediately push the big red button, right? And everything is just, the emotions are so amped up that like the sea levels, they're going to swallow everything, in like 5 minutes.
It's happening now. It's never happened, but it's fucking happening now.
Yeah, because now you have now it's like, okay, now there's a goal. Now that there's a purpose, and now we have a mission.
A societal a a, a focus point. We gotta go fucking, it's not the Nazis and the Japanese, but it's the same. Go do your part, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's even I was talking to one of my friends, he made the point, his law teacher, this was like 10 years ago, uh, said that we are a divided world, because he was talking about there's always different political parties and warring interests. He said we are in a divided world. The only thing that's ever going to unify mankind is either a deadly virus or aliens.
Oh fuck.
And he was pointing out how like deadly virus, now aliens, is kind of, both are actually hovering in our, we're, so that was interesting that his law teacher made a joke about that 10 years ago. But yeah, so the question is the real thing, right? Versus imitation. It all comes down to, can we distinguish one from the other, knowing that whoever is governing our society, going back to ancient Greece and before Babylon, right? The idea is illusions, right? You govern the masses through illusions. You create the illusion of whatever, of holiness and the gods and authority, the big tall walls of Babylon. Like this is the city. This is the Mecca. This is the people who run this thing. They are the gods of this world. And you should be in awe. That's a site, that's their social engineering back then. That's what it looked like. And it hasn't changed that much. The you had the spectacles of royalty and stuff. We still kind of have that, but all these things, right? Spectacles, creating a distance between the people and an elite class. Don't touch the queen. Like you can't. She has white gloves. She's white. Literally the epitome of white gloves. You can't touch her.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, you shouldn't technically touch anybody without their permission, but you're not supposed to. But that was the big thing with Michelle Obama, because she had hugged the queen, and you don't do that. You don't.
To Tim Dillon. I love,
so
there's a thing where Tim Dillon's talking to Ray Kump, and Ray's like, I can fuck people. I fuck good. And he goes, and you always need to have permission. Don't forget that. And she goes into his, but sorry, yeah. Can't touch the royalty.
Yeah. But all that to say, all these tricks, right? Just to illusions, right? To create the illusion of whatever. And so the question is always, what's the intention? And how do we know the real thing versus these imitations? And today, and here Tim Dillon brought a good quote, made a good point, which made me think about a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, which is that, does everybody really have to become fully self-actualized?
Yeah.
In the sense that, he was saying everybody was sold a dream, right? And you used to have like as he also says, it's good to be conservative about certain things and liberal about other things, right? It's not really common sense, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to remake the family or whatnot. And he just talks about all the people that he's met who, like, they wanted to be comedians. They're not funny, they're not talented, and they have shitty lives. Or all these people that they have this idea that they're going to make it, the Gary V
Yeah. Hustle and grind.
audiences. And he said they could have such a good life, get a job, start a family. It's not that complicated. But instead, a lot of people have been that's been deconstructed. There's the radical self-actualization idea, which actually gets to the Luciferian stuff, right? Because people talk about, oh, Satanism, and they're converting our children and all that. And sure, but there's a difference between Satanism and Luciferianism, in that Satanism is, the worship of Satan, which, is usually, we see, like, it's kind of cartoonish, right? Even when you see these news stories about, like, the Church of Satan is, having party hour but it all, it's like plastic devil horns, as Tim Dillon point out. The Luciferian stuff is the worship of self, right? And so the Luciferian Bible, the idea is do what thou wilt.
Do what thou wilt, yeah.
So your will is supreme above all else, and your ability to assert your will and to serve your own interests is the ultimate, self actualization, manifesting your life force and all that. And so you could see in society today where you do have this idea, like this kind of intense, like a family. Why are you going to have family, kids? Like, that's just going to hold you back, right?
Yeah.
And there's an interesting movie, The Beach, with Leonardo DiCaprio, and we're going back to the camping example that you had, where the guy, they run away, right? They leave home, they leave their, the bustling cities and whatnot, and they're on an island. And all these folks come together, and they're all running from something, right? They're all leaving behind their past, their dysfunctional families and a dysfunctional society, and they're coming together in this nice island. And, they're transcending, right? They've broken away from all these imposed structures and these superstructures. And so they're fully actualizing. So, when Tim Dillon asked, does everybody need to be fully self-actualized? Of course, he's making a point with comedic effect. Does that mean people just remain normie and not think about some of the other stuff? But at the same time, how do you pursue the real thing, right? And unearth your own deeper self. But at the same time, once you're doing that and you're coming online, you're making a lot of executive decisions that you don't have to do if you're on automatic, right? You go to school, you get a job, you start a family, right? That gives you a lot of structure right there. So if somebody's going to break away from that or do something different, like kind of they have a dream or something, you're going off road, right? And it's off-road terrain. It's not decided for you, and it could take you in all sorts of different places. And so what happens when you thrust, all that to say, a bunch of people into that whole off-road world, spiritually, intellectually, psychologically, but they're not equipped to do it, right? And you're just saying, manifest yourself, manifest your will, and, don't disregard any sort of higher lawfulness or authority, which may or may not be correct. But this creates all sorts of problems. And I think if we're looking at our society today and we think about, we're paying attention to what the ideas are, this self-actualization stuff and the environmental stuff, it's actually, it's coming full circle, because the ideas we're replacing the old gods, right? We're going to new gods, new realities, right? New multiple realities. So you get to create your own reality now, right? But of course, it's not going to be in an industrialized society. So it's going to be more spiritual. And so what
Re-
ideas are needed, right? You don't need a family, right? We have a tribe, we're a
yeah.
community, and people are in open relationships and they take DMT and they're very spiritual people and they're happy. Like is that the move? As Tim Dillon would say these days. Where are we going? Where does this go? And yeah, at what point do we take a step back and wonder, like, what's the intention under this narrative? What is the intention underlying this narrative that we're being given?
I'm always hesitant when somebody's offering something and selling it as they're offering the advice out of the goodness of their heart. Parents do that. Good friends do that. A good
Right.
professor might do that. But when like someone's like, I'm gonna let you into my course on how I built a business, and you're like, this is a guy who, if he's gonna let you in on the secrets, why would he let you in on the secrets? Why wouldn't he employ these secrets to build his business? Well, the answer might be is there's diminishing returns. He's already employed all of the secrets. So now his next best thing, because he is a businessman, would probably be to sell the secrets to you, which is why with one easy payment of $1,800, you too can learn how to drop ship. Okay. So if this, so on one hand it's just the goodness of the heart, I guess I just don't believe that out of really anyone. And then two, if something is so good it shouldn't need to be sold. Again, you discover a band and you're like, dude, this is sick. No one needs to shove I can't remember the last time I've seen a McDonald's ads aside from like watching TV when I'm at home with my family over Christmas break. You don't need to sell it to me. I drive by and I smell a bacon cheeseburger and I'm like, motherfucker, that's
Mm.
good, right? So the fact that they're either trying to tell us this is for your good, to get out there and to leave everything behind and stop producing energy and stop consuming energy, stop consuming plastics and industrialized goods, because I really care about you, and the fact that it needs an ad campaign of we're going back to here. Why not
Well,
just let it speak for itself?
it's for mankind. You're just selfish.
Ah, okay. So now comes in the stick. First, we're gonna offer you the carrot. It's because I love you, and you're gonna be happier. But if you don't do it, you're a fucking demon from hell, Nazi.
You're a science denier.
Yeah, okay. So that entire thing right there, when I see all of those talking
You're
points,
just a bad person.
you're just, well, that's ultimately what it is. And now comes the gaslighting, the bullying, and then finally the physical threat of violence, right? When
Right.
I see all of those talking points, I smile, I say thank you, I'll think about it, and I go in the opposite direction. I do it quietly. You don't make a big thing about it. You go,
Right.
yeah, no, I'm gonna look at it another time, and you'll leave because that's a cult, and they're gonna kill you and then themselves.
Right. And well, now we're kind of coming full circle. I mean,
Yeah,
in the sense that it's a family thing, if you think about it, and so a lot of the some of the work that I read as I've been working on these articles. There's another one coming, but it was studying the Chaos book by journalist
yeah,
Tom Hill, and his groundbreaking stuff on Manson and the family. Remember, it's called the family,
yeah.
right? And so, of course, a lot of shorthand here, but the family was they were all being it was being surveyed, right? It was being monitored. It was a big experiment to see, like, the behavior, right, of the members and how they would change, right? How they became new people within this family dynamic, and all the different things that were done, right? Like, one of them was renaming people, right? So everybody got a new name, right? And you see that naming is a big thing, right? If you see in our society today, we're renaming everything, and you can go back to Confucius, right, in like 300 400 BC, and actually he was asked if he was made governor of one of the states, and this was during the warring states period, so there was a lot of instability and war and stuff, and he said, like, what would you do, what would be your first sort of order of business, and he said, I would rectify the names, right? And he'd say, when things aren't called by their name, when you don't have the right name for things, you get disorder. And when you get disorder, punishments aren't given out properly. When punishments aren't given out properly, the population doesn't know, how to move hand or foot. When people don't know how to move hand or foot, music suffers, the propriety suffers, morals suffer as a result because there's no culture, right? There's no idea of harmony and beauty, and the flip side being certain things are ugly, and so it's this, we find them ugly, so we stay away from them, and the things that we find beautiful we go towards. And so it's a profound idea. So we always do have to be wary when people are changing the names of things. And it's we do have to change the names of things. Like if we're making breakthroughs and we're expanding our understanding of the universe and ourselves, we are going to, like, things change, right, over
Mhm.
time. But anytime people start wanting to rename everything, that's always a red flag. All that to say, going back to the Manson family, that's just one among the things, right? So you rename people, he would tell them negate your ego, right? Like just forget who you are. Like you're going to become a servant to a higher cause, right? Because that's what they were all told, right? It wasn't just that Manson was this charismatic guy, but it was that all these people, all these young people who were lost, disenfranchised, whatnot, they found this new artificial family system that met a certain deeper desire that they had. Now, fast forward, two of the Manson family members actually tried to kill presidents. Right? The Gerald Ford, one of the Manson family members, went to prison, and she just recently got out, actually, and she was interviewed. I was watching her interview on like CNN. I mean, this is a few years ago now, but she tried to kill Gerald Ford. And this is time we're talking about MK Ultra programmed assassins, and the Manson members were killing all sorts of people on orders. Um, so how do you create a family, right? And who's the family today? Are we the family? Is Western civilization today the family? Where now we have to make certain sacrifices, right? That even if they don't feel nice, right? It's for a greater cause, and like you don't want to be a selfish, bad person, right? You care about other people, right? You're not a science denying zealot, are you?
Mhm.
So we need to change the way that we run our society, and it's urgent. And you have to make a decision. Fast forward to stop oil people, and like they're getting ready to like firebomb metros, and this is like just regular news. Like, thank God they're stopping the subways. You see all these stop oil, the crazy protests.
Yeah.
These are young kids, right, who are being recruited to terrorism increasingly, and terrorism is increasingly becoming like, let's destroy art, let's whatever. It's becoming like
Anything
we
to
have no choice.
justify. We have no choice. Anything to what do they always scream? They always scream like wake up. They truly think that they truly are acting like you're shell shocked. You're opening your eyes and there's dirt and I'm above you, right? We're on fucking D-Day. And I'm going, wake up. I'm going, wake the fuck up. And you're going like, what the fuck? Like, but I have that righteousness. I'm screaming at you. I'm like shaking your shoulders. You're going, Tommy, what the fuck? And I don't care if you're mad at me. I gotta wake you up because they're reloading and they're about to mow us down. There is that self-righteousness. Or wake up, there's a fire. Wake the fuck. I don't care if you're mad at me. Wake up. They have that total self-righteousness. It's the complete shirking of the responsibility of defending your idea and being aware of its own pitfalls and that you might even be wrong. It's so much easier when you just have a blanket excuse of I'm saving the world. I don't need to address your criticisms of it. I'm right. It's that simple. I'm right. And not only am I right, I'm doing it for you, which is really, I mean, even in Howard Bloom's the Muhammad Code, it is so imperative that you strap a bomb to your chest and go blow up this cafe of infidels because not only will you go to heaven and not go to hell, but you need to get these people from going to hell. You gotta is your imperative.
Yeah, those are the worst, right?
Those are the
Ironically,
Yeah.
Like you think, okay, criminal, whatever, guy's robbing or whatnot, but he's not necessarily going to try and convince you that what he's doing is for your own
He knows
good.
it's bad. That's
Right.
why he's wearing a mask and shooting the cameras.
Yeah.
Right.
So which is the worst sin? The guy who's doing something bad, knows it bad, is not lying to himself and thinks like he's a really great guy. And this is like, for taking down, well, maybe like the Kaczynski, he's not a Kaczynski type. Yeah, we've got to destroy it for the greater good of mankind.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the righteousness, right? These people are like, pray for your neighbors and your family. They're all going to hell, and like it's all, we just got to save as many souls as we can. And like they're something is broken though inside them, right? And I think that's, you don't you know it's not about winning arguments at that point, right? To get through to such people, or if those people are not to be gotten through to bring awareness to the a wider audience of what's really gone wrong here.
Yeah.
Like, how did we get here? There you It's always people that are first broken, right, that do need to take on that are looking for an identity. And that's normal. Like that's
Sure.
not something to
It's not
um
necessarily a bad thing.
yeah, but so then that's why philosophia, the love of wisdom. Like if we don't love wisdom and truth more than, our own personal things, then what happens if we go down a rabbit hole and it turns out that what we've invested ourselves in is not the real thing, but only an imitation?
Yeah.
And what happens when to people who have realized that they did go down and they fell in love with something that wasn't the real thing? Let's say even in a relationship, right? Turns out getting slapped and kicked in the face, that ain't love. Maybe
Yeah.
we thought it was at some point.
Yeah.
But then and then they just fall into, then the person falls into another kind of illusion though, right? Think of all the disenfranchised red pill, or the red pilled people that become the black pilled people, or the blue pill people that just become the red pill people. Like, I was a liberal, I was a lefty, now I'm a conservative. And like, they're like, yeah, China is really the problem, And so like, okay, so it's not war with Russia, it's just war with China. Like
New boogeyman.
yeah. So that's why we got to love the real thing, so that we're not just always falling into one thing only to, falling into one an illusion only to break out and trip into it another. And how do we stay aware, right? How do we practice awareness in such a way that we're keeping our eye on the real thing? We're always learning along the way, but so that we can, if we take that approach, I think it becomes easier to understand the bad guys, right? But also like the deception that all these things that were being presented, there's a sleight of hand. And if we have some intimation of the real good, right, of a love of wisdom, then we're okay with finding out that something we believed is incorrect. We're actually happy, right? Like if you find out, hey, I used to think this thing, but actually it turns out, like, that's good news.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. And if somebody actually without charging you $1,800 was like, hey man, actually, have you heard about XYZ? And they're not trying to convert you. They're just
No.
like, hey, that's a blessing, right? Like, wow, that was free
And
insight into
and
the
it's
reality.
and like the quest for wisdom is, I know at least for me, is we dress it up falsely as like, well, it's very difficult and it's hard. And it is. But it's like when you first decide to start dieting or something. At first you're like, fuck, I'm no longer gonna eat French fries. This sucks, and I'm gonna eat spinach. Or if you're getting sober, it means no more having fun.
Right.
But what you really start to realize is, what is eating French fries? What is getting drunk? Is its pleasure and its enjoyment. Eating healthy or being sober and pursuing weight loss is like, it's still at its core, you're pursuing pleasure. You're just pursuing an absence of panic attacks or hangovers. You're pursuing an absence of, I can't fit in these pants anymore. And actually, when you serve it up that way, you go, this is still the same pleasure of the Big Mac. It's just a different kind of pleasure. It's a lot more palatable. You go, oh, okay, no, this is cool. So it's when you look at wisdom, it's always much more alluring to be like, I'm a Republican and those fucking libtards are gonna. No, 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 no. So what is wisdom? Well, wisdom means I can't ever have like that feeling of tribalism or something. It's like, no, no, no. Wisdom is like it's an internal peace, but without needing to hate an outside group. And it's at first, humility is humiliating. You go, oh, fuck. Versus the more you get into it, we're talking about, I can't not go to the gym now. The more you get into working out, it turns from a
Right.
pain to like, I need it. I love it. And humility and learning and being wrong, it turns from like embarrassing to now I love learning new shit. I love being wrong. I'd never heard the term what is it the useless what was that the useless class?
Global useless class.
I never heard that before. And now that's
Called
not something I've ever railed against, but let's say I had gone out and said that word's never been used before, and you're like, no, Harari said it. And whereas it used to be like, oh fuck, now I'm wrong and it's on camera. Now it's like, oh, I learned. And it's
Yeah.
still the same pleasure. And I think that's maybe the importance is to repackage it as like, no, it's still very enjoyable to get in shape. It's still very enjoyable to start getting enough sleep. It's not,
Right.
it's hard at first. And that's the ultimate allure of wisdom
Well,
is
it's all
peace.
sustainable. It's more sustainable.
Oh, 1,000%. Instead of getting drunk on Fridays and feeling good for a couple hours, I don't drink. I haven't drank for a little over a month. And now I just kind of feel good all day, every day.
Right.
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 It's much
Yeah.
more sustainable and requires nothing.
I mean, I know I like and I like intermittent fasting.
Oh,
I
yeah.
enjoy I enjoy food more now.
Oh my
Like
God. It
wow,
makes you enjoy fucking healthy food. You go, I'm so hungry. Spinach, broccoli, give it to me, baby. Like,
yeah, a muffin and a coffee is like heaven,
yeah, oh,
because
yeah.
first
Today's
thing
my
I
cheat
have,
day. Literally after this, I'm gonna go get some hot pockets. I'm gonna have that for a cheat meal. I'm
believe it,
so excited to have a couple hot
but
pockets.
yeah, it's nice. But all that to say that like yeah, I mean, or because yeah, I've known people who've really struggled with different addictions, and like we all have our problems, right? But like sometimes you meet somebody, and you're like, okay, they're really hurting, like they're really like
Medicating.
it's one altered state to another, right?
Yeah.
They're really addicted to like anesthetizing themselves, one thing or another, with like barely any rest. Or as
Yeah.
in one of the podcasts, Tim Dillon was talking about Yanis Papas making the reference about like fat Americans, where like as
On
soon as there's
cruises. As
a
soon as you
little
get a little bit
pocket
of empty
air,
space, you back
they
it down with
gotta
more food.
yeah just push it all down, right? Like food, it's an addiction, right?
Yeah.
When your stomach, the blood goes to your stomach gets tight, and you don't feel the other things. Like it's a
Yeah.
very it makes sense. It's quite normal, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then it's like
That's such a
to
great bit.
level, but to level with people, right? It's like, hey man, you can still get high. You can go to the gym,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like feel great. I go to
Oh,
gym.
oh
You can go
fuck
to
yeah.
on a cold shower. You'll never feel better than after a cold shower in the morning, and then you can just take on your day.
The
And
gym and a cold shower is like snorting an Adderall.
it's I have trouble not doing it, right? Like if I don't do it,
I feel
so
foggy.
you you can still like life is still a series of trances, whether you're transcending or you're trying to just avoid things, and you're altering your states with different substances and whatnot, or activities. Like we're in a series of trances anyways. We're sleeping, we're walking, we're in all sorts of different states in a day. But the question is, yeah, like what's guiding it all, right? And is it the real thing? Like is it bringing us closer to the real thing, or is it something that's just we're pushing it all down? That's a question that each of us can sort of, I think, ask ourselves, right? And it's liberating, right, when we can do that without having to like freak out, and
Yeah.
just because we love wisdom, and we're always looking to remove more illusions about ourselves, about the world. And each time we do, we become lighter. right? And as Dante climbs the mountain purgatory, he becomes lighter. Like it's
Yeah.
a hard climb, and the incline it becomes easier the more you climb. And I that's more how I like to. I think that's a healthier idea of transcendence and
It's
self-actualization,
is the
where
best
we're
that's the best description of working through pain to reach peace is the incline gets easier with every step.
right. And also it's like the end is the beginning and the beginning is the end, in the sense that like once you get to a certain place you find out that like, well, hey, there's so many people that are hurting, and there's so many knots and binds and problems in the world that you know, if you do succeed in overcoming a bunch of things, it's like, well, guess what, now you're gonna have to help others.
Now you can go help
and
someone
that's
else.
and that's how you help yourself too, right? Like
Yeah.
that's where charity, the real idea of charity comes in. It's like, well, if you have it all, quote unquote, which no one does, but like the person who has it all, what are you going to do? You're going to help others.
Yeah.
You're going to, that deeper sense of charity is really, it's the only thing that will be fulfilling if you've sort of gone a certain point. And so, yeah, you can get high, man. Don't, that's not, we're not
Oh
saying,
yeah.
but what does that mean? Um, that's a different question, and we should just be able to explore that without you know,
There
too
is,
many options.
and that's one thing I've kind of always told people is like back in college when this is kind of how I existed and like what I'm working back towards now is that life of like cold showers, of exercise, of dieting. I remember my friends when I lived in a frat house, they'd be like, "Why do you do this shit? Like, there's so much pussy all around us and weed and alcohol." I'm like, "You don't understand. Like, I'm actually more of a glutton than you. I want it 24/7. You guys want it on Friday and Saturday night. I'm a real pig. I have it every day. I wake up and I feel great. I don't look forward to Thursday night. I'm
Right,
basking in like meditation and exercise all day, every day. It's
right,
I am actually more of a pleasure hound than you. And that's the way to look at it. It's like, yeah, dude, it's not. It's I would say I enjoy food more. The less I eat, the more I enjoy. It doesn't need to be bacon. I'm like, fuck yeah. Was it eggs with a little bit of salt? I'm like, fuck me. Like this is incredible. And
yeah.
it
When you're
is,
eating, your body doesn't, it's certain things don't taste as good, right? You change. And the
yeah.
same, not just food, but overall, right? Different things in life, they don't have the same magic. So we find out that like, okay, so we do change,
Yeah.
right? This idea that people don't change,
And
that's
what's
not really.
and what's kind of hilarious, and we'll wrap it up on this note, is you and I have now completely voided our argument. We are saying that it is more pleasurable to have less. We have gone full World Economic Forum. I'm just you and I
Yes,
have we have actually explained in detail how less is more.
but the whole, you're right. But what's funny is that
It has
we're
to be
almost
done on
saying
your
it,
own.
but we're not. And
Okay.
I think everything comes down to whether people can appreciate these kinds of nuances. We're saying the same thing, and yet we're not. And how many people, when they come faced with that distinction, yeah, which one do we go for? You know,
There is an important distinction. You will only enjoy less food and more workouts when you do it and no one makes you do it. That is the enjoyment. If it's a top down control structure that says you will not eat anymore, you're going to be fucking starving. But if you tell yourself, I'm not eating, I'm doing fasting today, you will get through it. So that is the distinction is you have to do it on your own. No one can make you do it. If anyone makes you do it, then it's not you. It's
that's,
painful.
it's an interesting irony, right? But yeah, and I would conclude though that and then you can so you want, but like what you said actually playing out, you know, for the camping thing. The camping example is not a bad one, right?
Sure.
Like camping is nice for the first 2 days,
Yeah.
but you got to play that thing out past the 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Go 3 days, go 4 days, go a week, go a month, and like by a year, Lord have mercy, right? That's scary stuff,
It's
right?
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. And so same thing with any of these ideas, right? Like, let's just play it out. And what do these things actually look like? And same with the fasting. Like, what do we look like if we don't take on these different habits, and we are like fat and sort of, or over consuming whatever? Like, what does that look like down the road? Because
Mm.
oftentimes people who are engaged in behaviors to alter their states, and we all do it in different respects, right? But when I take a cold shower, I'm altering my state. But it's often, we don't want to think about certain things down the line, and so we're tapping out and we're saying, like, we're checking out, right? We're checked out. All right, you guys were great. All right, now I'm checking out. So what's on the other side of that? I think if we should be able to go through it in our head, and let the person do it themselves, right? We can't tell them what's on the other side of their thing. Let them do it, and then then it's their own decision, right? I've learned, and I still make the mistake, but or people tried to give me advice, it didn't work. I've tried to give people advice, it doesn't work, right? But what's the way around it? That's simple. It's a tricky thing, but hence why I like this. People got to do it themselves, like you said, but it helps to imagine, right? And play the scenario out and see where it takes us. And then, you know what? It's your decision,
Yeah. Walk it out 1,000 times over, and which one's the better path? Yeah. Going camping is going to result in you wearing like a necklace of ears and like, being some weird pagan god on like an altar made of bare bones. Or, yeah, dieting is like, yeah, it hurts, but you walk it out, you feel better, you look better, you're more confident, you can quite literally move more easily, right?
Yeah. And the
Versus
beautiful thing is you appreciate everything more after.
so much more.
Like, that's the real magic, right? Like, if we're talking transcendence, um,
Normal
then,
pleasures
like,
get
you
dialed
enjoy
up
it.
1,000-fold.
Well, we're actually in touch, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to just trying to
Medicate.
magically alter things.
Like I'm like giddy right now knowing that I'm gonna finish this podcast and go get some hot pockets. Right? I mean, there's a lightness in my step. Like I feel like I'm about to go get laid. And like you can't do that if you're eating hot pockets every day.
Yeah,
But
no, that's
because I'm gonna have a cheat day today, I'm like, this is better than like ripping shots of vodka. I'm like, I'm about to fucking fill my tummy with cheese and sausage. And it's gonna be
Tommy's
fucking incredible.
Tommy's speaking to us from the other side right now.
I am. I am on the other side. I
It's
am
the
the
other side, and this
I
is what it sounds like.
this joy, this is real. This is I'm like I am an angel of light and I'm coming down and I'm going like embrace the hot pockets sparingly and you will find Christ.
I'll up you, or not up you actually, but I always like this story. I'm always curious. Person was like, "What's it like not being an alcoholic?" They were an alcoholic and they stopped drinking, and because I want to hear the pitch, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
what is the great, like, what's the magic, right?
Yeah.
And he said it's actually, he's like, I could tell you a bunch of things, but really, it's like, he said, just even the small things. Like, it's nice to just be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee and to actually be present for that moment where you can actually just sit there with no anxiety and enjoy a cup of coffee and let the world sort of happen.
Mm.
That's magic,
Yeah.
right? That's real magic. How often do we get to do that? And so, yeah, I mean, have a hot pocket. God bless.
Yeah.
You know, enjoy that cheese and sauce. And
It's gonna be fucking great. And like even now having I didn't drink between September, October, and all of November last year. I took 3 months off and it was great. And then I started drinking on weekends again, started having panic attacks. And now I'm coming up on about a month of not drinking. And like
Hmm.
the general just peace throughout the day.
Mm.
Instead of like, fuck, I'm anxious, don't act anxious, don't, I just gotta relax. Instead, it's just like, it's the same amount of pleasure. It's just spread out evenly. So instead of just fucked up and having a good time for a couple hours of 1 week, like right now is just like the sun's hitting them in downtown Portland. Like the sun's just hitting the bricks. It's just birds chirping. I'm just hearing cars go by outside. And it's like, no, there's no like euphoric orgasm moment, but
Mm.
instead it's just like all day I'm on sort of like a very mild dose of Valium. It's just
Well, you're cruising.
I'm just hearing cars go over the train tracks, and you're like, what a beautiful, just interesting sound. Like birds are chirping. Little flying organic stereos are just flying around,
Right.
making noise. And you don't
That's
think, sorry.
that. I mean, that seems like that was like the best end note I think I ever heard. Little stereos,
Little
organic
biological stereos are flying around, just chirping.
fade, you know,
Fade to
picture
black.
fades.
Fade to black. This podcast has been sponsored by Tim Dillon's Going to Hell. Executive producer Ray Kump. Um, fuck yeah. No, it's just, and what's great is it's right now. So I was meditating yesterday or the day before and talking about I'm after the feeling, right? I was like, when I
Mm.
find when I'm anxious, I'm always imagining like an end goal. I can't wait till the podcast gets to X, Y, and Z. I can't wait till I lose this much weight. I can't wait till I make this much money. And I was thinking about like I was just up at my parents this past weekend. They have a lake house, and it was just so beautiful. And I was meditating. I was like, man, when the podcast makes enough money, I'm gonna go move up to my own lake house. And then I remember thinking like, well, why does it have to be the podcast that makes money? How come I just can't get money? Like, why not? Why can't it just happen? Why can't I win the lottery? And then it was like, well, why do I even need to move up there? Like, it's sunny and the birds are chirping here. How do I get this all the time? And then it just dawned on me. I was like, what do you want? Like, I want this sunny, birds chirping. And it was like, so you want the thing you're currently in? Yes. What are you worrying about then?
Amen.
And it was just this moment of you're eating the hot pocket, going, dude, I just want a hot pocket. It's going, hey, stop fucking thinking, dude. The hot pocket's here.
Right.
And that's what I get through like abstaining from drinking and intermittent fasting and dieting is the idea that I'm dreaming towards. I mean, it's literally here right now. I'm like, there's just like a seagull in the distance. Like there's a light breeze coming through this room.
And I
It's
would even
here.
say though, like you like I like people more the more I'm sort of like in awareness and present.
Yeah.
Even when I see, even when they don't like themselves, right? Like it's hard for me to dislike somebody, honestly, because you know there's something there, and you know there's everything like over it,
Yeah.
and the things that have sort of they've taken on over time for XYZ reasons. But like, yeah, everybody has a sacred spark in them, and the tragedy is, you know, for all the times that you see it's not, it's they haven't fully come online, or they're largely just going through emotions, and um, but like everybody has a deeper thing going on, and in a good society, people get in touch with that in themselves, but that allows them to then see it in others,
Mm,
and the dynamic that that creates is, you know, you can't model that, you can't artificially create it if people aren't tapped into that deeper thing. And then like, yeah,
inside.
having a family, you know, because today it's really under attack, but like a lot of the simple things, right, become like children are these transcendent, you know, permanent trance state beings that are just literally created, made to sort of absorb, and you're there to give them goodness and love and all the things that they need to then themselves become these sovereign,
It's like the
Unique
most beautiful
individuals.
thing it's like the most beautiful thing imaginable.
Yeah, and there's a whole world full of these people, and unfortunately, a lot of them don't never get the chance for, and in much of history, right? And so we see like there's no shortage of stuff to do or
Yeah.
things to get excited about or to appreciate. There's really no shortage of magic in our
Yeah.
world.
I mean, we're in the Garden of Eden. You just have to sort of you got to come to that realization.
Yeah, and so it's a shame that there's so much real magic, and then we see like people chasing after fake magic, and we all have in different ways or whatnot. But like, yeah, this is where things seem clear, right? Like,
I th- I think Ram Dass said it, where he was like, when a pickpocket meets a saint, he only sees the pocket. And it's like, dude, you're in the presence of divinity and you only see like how much change does he have in his pocket?
word.
Right. Yeah. I always love that one. And that's what it is. It's like all this stuff, the sun setting, the birds chirping. This has all been here. But for any amount of time I've been stuck in anxiety and oscillating between alcohol and weed and Xanax and Burger King.
Yeah.
You're void of all of it. But if you center it in now, it's like the waves crashing for eternity of just magic. It's just wave after wave for millennia and for millions of years. It's like there is no ending.
Mm.
It really is like we're in heaven.
Well,
Like
thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right?
like
That's the whole idea. And again, I mean, given we live in a very pessimistic society, yeah, I think these are healthy reminders. Like, what's really the universe is friendly.
yeah.
That's why I think, I don't know if this is just some like bullshit story, but like on Einstein on his deathbed, apparently, like, what was the last thing he said or question that he asked or something? And it was like, is what all the only thing that really matters is the universe friendly? I don't know if he said that, but it's not a bad thing, right? Like, is the universe friendly? Or, think about all the people like, it doesn't matter. It's all just meaningless. It's just entropy. It's just everything's just winding down, and there's just limited resources and da da da. Very different ideas,
Hmm.
and so yeah, we do have to make a choice.
I say we wrap up on that note. And more importantly, guys, go subscribe to Tim Dillon. I mean, that is I think I think I think David and I are apostles for him. If you like what you see here, this comes from the purity of Tim Dillon.
Yeah, we're nothing. We're just
We
we're
are the
just
shadows.
we're just messengers.
We are just imitations of the truth of his fat rolls of wisdom and his $400 million sunglasses.
Yes, and we're
Beautiful.
gonna go enjoy some sunshine now, and hopefully one day we'll meet Tim Dillon. Have you ever met Tim Dillon?
No, but I would like to touch him and just feel it, feel the magic.
We'll have to find him one day. We'll track him down.
We'll have to hunt him down and fucking kill him because that's the only thing that would make him happy is if we killed him. Um, yeah, dude. Let's wrap this one up, guys. Go into the description. Go follow David. Go check out his work. Don't make me look bad. Um, yeah, and I'll shoot you a text and let's schedule another one.
Right on. Let's talk soon.
Fuck yeah, dude. Thanks so much.
Time to
I
the organic stereos.
organic stereos. They are. They're just flying little fucking iPods just flying around, just eating seeds and shitting out music. It's fucking wild. All right, dude. Let's chat
Amen.
soon.